Welcome to another episode of the Scripture Twisting 101. Today we will be talking about a passage from the Quran. It is found in chapter 2, verse 208, and it reads, "O you who believe, enter absolutely into peace. Do not follow in the footsteps of Satan. He is an outright enemy to you." David, I've always been at least told that this is an indication that it's about Islam and that Islam is a religion of peace. That's how it was used, at least in the context that I studied.
Yeah, well, and there are Muslim apologists who use it like this. Shabir Ali has used this in debates to claim that since the Quran is commanding Muslims to enter completely into peace, that is the goal of Islam, this state of peace, and so they should resist violence and conflict and so on. The obvious objection here is the translation, because most translations are not going to even have the word peace there. So if you pick up most Qurans, it'll say something like this, Surah 2, verse 208, "O you who believe, enter completely into Islam, and do not follow the footsteps of Satan. Surely he is your open enemy." So the claim by certain Muslim apologists who are claiming that this has something to do with peace is that this shouldn't be translated as Islam, it should be translated as peace. And the basis for that is the word there is silm, and this is the only place it's used like this in the Quran.
That's right.
So there's nothing to compare it to for other usages, and so the question is what this means. I just want to go through a couple other translations just to show basically virtually all modern translators translate this as Islam, not as peace.
Right.
So Pickthall says, "Come, all of you, into submission."
Correct.
That's what Islam would mean.
Correct.
Yusuf Ali, "Enter into Islam wholeheartedly."
That's right.
Hilali Khan, "Enter perfectly in Islam."
Okay, right.
M.H. Shakir, "Enter into submission, one and all." Sher Ali, "Come into submission, all of you." Khalifa, "You shall embrace total submission." So they're translating this as Islam or submission.
Which is the meaning of Islam,
Yeah,
basically.
and there are good reasons for that. Namely that even though, hey, you don't have a lot to compare it with this one instance of this usage, you can go back, and you could go back to commentators, and you can go back to the historical context. And when you go back, you find out there's no way this should ever be translated as peace. So let me read Ibn Kathir's short commentary on this. Ibn Kathir says, "Allah commands his servants who believe in him and have faith in his messenger to implement all of Islam's legislation and law, to adhere to all of its commandments as much as they can, and to refrain from all of its prohibitions." And he says, Al-Afi said that Ibn Abbas said, and also Mujahid, Tawus, Ad-Dahak, Ikramah, Qatada, As-Sudi, and Ibn Zayd said, Allah's statement, "Enter silm," means Islam. So he's quoting an array of people ranging from early Muslims to a little bit later, but they're saying enter silm means Islam. So if you're saying no, it should be in peace, you're saying, hey, people going back all the way to Muhammad's companions got this wrong. They didn't know what they were talking about. The other problem I mentioned is that we know the historical context. We know what this verse is an answer to. And we have this in the tafsir of Ibn Abbas, Tafsir Jalalain, Ibn Kathir, Qurtubi, and so these are all of Islam's top commentaries, and they all give the same historical background. The historical context is that a Jew named Abdullah ibn Salam converted to Islam, but after he converted to Islam, he kept keeping certain Jewish practices. So he kept honoring the Jewish Sabbath, and he would refrain from eating things like camel meat, because that's forbidden in the Jewish scriptures. That's in the Torah. You're not allowed to eat camel, but Muslims are allowed to eat camel. So he kept up not eating camel. He kept up the Jewish dietary restrictions. So this, Surah 2, verse 208, was an answer to him when it came before Muhammad. Hey, can this guy still live as kind of a Jew, but as a Muslim? And the response of Allah was, enter completely into Islam. So don't come part way into Islam but still be living like something else. If you're going to convert to Islam, then you convert to Islam. So notice that would make absolutely no sense to translate this as peace if that's given the historical context. It makes
Right.
it makes no sense if we're saying, hey, should this guy be keeping the Jewish Sabbath and Jewish dietary restrictions? Oh, well, enter completely into peace. Wouldn't make any sense. But enter completely into Islam means, hey, if you're converting, go ahead and convert all the way. So given what we know about modern translators, how various Muslim scholars have translated the word over time, and the historical context, there's just no way to make this about living in peace with unbelievers.
That's right. That's right.
And so we see basically how desperate Muslim apologists are when they have to resort to completely distorting the meaning of their own book. They have to just massacre what their book is saying and go against Muhammad's companions, go against the clear meaning of the text, and then violate their own rule. Because what do they say to us when we quote something? They say, oh, context. Well, you can look at the historical context. The historical context is this means Islam.
And it's a play on word, because they feel like, if you don't know Arabic, it's gonna sound the same to you. Islam, Silm, so you're gonna hear it the same. It's the same root, no doubt, but the root doesn't mean that the meaning will remain the same. It's always gonna be different. Yeah. So that's indeed, what you see when you look at the different translations. Anything else you want to add to?
Only one point, because there's really not much I can add to what he said, but just to confirm what he's saying, the Quran is quite clear. Allah will not accept or tolerate any other religion except Islam, and will not accept or tolerate a person embracing a religion other than Islam. I'll just look at 2 verses, because in previous sessions we've discussed chapter 9 verses 28 to 33, where it says, why do you fight Jews and Christians and pagans? Because of their wrong religion, because of their unbelief in Islam.
Right.
How then can you enter into peace with Muhammad and still be a Jew and Christian or an idolater when the Quran commands Muslims to attack those very groups for their infidelity, unbelief in Muhammad? So, chapter 3, verse 19. Truly, chapter 3, verse 19, the religion with Allah is Islam. Those who were given the scriptures did not differ except out of mutual jealousy after knowledge had come to them. I mean, supposedly they agreed that Islam is the religion. And whoever disbelieves in the ayat, the signs of Allah, then surely Allah is swift in calling to account. Chapter 3, verse 85. Whoever seeks a religion other than Islam, it will never be accepted of him, and then hereafter he'll be one of the losers. So how can you enter into peace, if that's the meaning of the term,
That's right.
and not be a Muslim following Muhammad, right? So these verses are quite clear that Shabir Ali, Jamal Badawi, Hamza Yusuf, whoever it is, they are dishonestly handling this passage, making it say something that it does not say in its immediate context, as well as in the interpretation of that passage by Muslim scholars throughout the centuries.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Very
right.
dishonest.
Exactly. Thank you so much, as always, and hopefully this was helpful to everyone, because you're going to hear these verses, by the way, being mentioned to you by Muslims, and they're going to try to associate the word peace with Islam, but that's not the case at all. And sadly, of course, many of these great commentaries not done in English. Please be praying that some can take on projects to begin to translate many of these commentators, because they're extremely important for people who do not at least have access to the Arabic or are unable to read the Arabic, because there is a wealth of information in there that will contradict, I assure you, many of the teachings that you're hearing, whether it is intentional with an agenda to deceive you, or maybe the same people who are sharing it with you are being misled by others, teachers, for instance, that they are aspiring to listen to and be like. Thank you again for joining us. Until we meet again, have a blessed day. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Also, hit the bell so that you don't miss future videos. And please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/CIRA International. And together we can introduce Muslims to the gospel of Jesus Christ. Thank you.